So thank you, Emma, for getting the recording going. And this recording will be made available to everyone. So if you're registered for this series, you'll receive the link to the recording, and also you can share that with others. And if you're not able to make it to one of the calls, then you can always check it out after the fact. Just really want to ask people to be mindful of staying on mute during the call, just for everyone's sanity, unless you're chatting in a breakout room or asking a question. And really encourage you too, if you can turn on your video, if you're in a place where you can show your face, it's really nice, especially for guest presenters, to feel like we're talking to other human beings and not just black boxes with names on them. So if that's something that you can do, just encourage you to lean into that. And also, please change your name. You can, in the little like ellipses in the top corner of your box, you'll see an option to be able to rename yourself. And you can put your first name and your pronouns that you prefer to be addressed as. And that'll be really helpful as we help to facilitate conversation and discussion and meet and connect with one another. All right. So I think just a quick overview of how today's going to go. Andy's going to tee up the conversation in a minute. Then we're going to hear a little bit from like a panel type conversation to sort of set the stage. And then we're going to go into some breakout rooms for y'all to connect with each other and be able to share like what's up with land access in your community. Like, how is this relevant to your community food work? What kinds of challenges and opportunities are being presented around land access, and just be able to like kind of engage in that conversation more than just listening to the presenters. So we'll do that. And then we'll come back and hear a little bit more in depth based on some of the things that you share as well, a little bit more in depth from Steve and Betsy and, oh goodness, why am I spacing on the last person's name? Ben, I'm sorry, Ben. So looking forward to hearing from y'all in a minute. Before we get going, I'm just going to remind us of the community agreements for this community of practice and all of the spaces that we host as part of the Food Systems Leadership Network. Thanks, Emma, for bringing those up. So this is in recognition that we are all creators and stewards of culture. It's the verb, culture is a verb that we co-create together every time that we are in community with one another. So within the Food Systems Leadership Network, we honor and celebrate our collective wisdom, knowing that together we know a lot. We're mindful of our power, privilege, and how much space we take up. We take responsibility for impact regardless of intent. We give grace to one another and approach conflict with curiosity. We challenge assumptions, respect our differences, and speak from our own experience. We honor confidentiality. Lessons leave, stories stay. We take care of our own physical, mental, and emotional needs, and we meet each other where we are. Showing up is enough, and listening is participating. So if there's one of those that really resonates with you today, I encourage you to shout it out in the chat. And also just invite everyone to help us live into these agreements together. All right. Thanks, Emma. Take that down. And Andy, I think I'm going to hand it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Susan. I'm Andy Fisher. I'm with a group called ISCD. We are the training and technical assistance providers for community food projects. So I just want to acknowledge that USDA NIFA is supporting this event, and thank you. And it's great to see you all. I think we've got the best turnout we've had so far, and I'm seeing lots of names of folks that I've known over the years. So it's wonderful to have that. So we're talking about land access today. And so the question is why? Why are we talking about land access in today's call? And you can't grow food without land, with maybe a few exceptions, perhaps aquaculture, even container farming, vertical farming need land. And land acquisition is one of the most significant barriers to food and farming projects, as you know. Good farmland is increasingly expensive to acquire, and suburban sprawl continues to pave over much of the nation's best farmland. If you just take a look at the Central Valley in California, you can see how sprawl along the 99 corridor has taken up some of the best farmland in the country. at the urban level, many jurisdictions still devalue urban agriculture as a lower value, lower priority use of land than commercial or manufacturing uses. So the question is, how do we get here? Land was not always a commodity. It wasn't always something that was bought and sold. And the history of land ownership in America is intricately tied to colonization of the continent, of the expropriation and theft from indigenous nations, Mexicans, Blacks, and many others. Land ownership was central to slavery, to the conquista of Latin America, and to manifest destiny, and continues to be a central feature of American capitalism. And if you think land ownership is passé in today's digital world, just consider that Bill Gates, who's the embodiment of the computer age, he is now America's largest farmer. He owns 270,000 acres. So our conversation is going to hint at a few possible paths forward in this situation. There are many. We're just talking about, this is a very complex topic, obviously, so we can only get a little bit scratch the surface on it. But the presenters are going to address alternative forms of land ownership grounded in institutions that are accountable to the communities in which they reside. So I'm just going to introduce the speakers, and then I'm going to ask them a couple of questions just to kind of get things going. So Steve Schwartz is with us. He's the executive director of Interfaith Sustainable Food Collaborative in Sonoma County, California. He's an experienced food systems leader with over 25 years of work in a wide range of topics. He's collaborated with community advocates and farmers to advance policies that center food justice and sustainable agriculture, and has worked to increase accessibility of land for beginning and immigrant farmers. He founded the Interfaith Sustainable Food Collaborative in 2012 with a mission of facilitating land access for faith communities engaged in local food production. On the other side of the country in Providence, we have Margaret DeVos and Ben Tropey at the Southside Community Land Trust. Margaret also has 25 years of experience working in community development in Detroit and Providence, and serves on the Rhode Island Land Trust Council. By developing local food systems that work for everybody, she works to create positive change in public health, youth and community opportunity, the environment, and civic pride. And Ben is the Urban Edge Farm Manager at Southside Community Land Trust. And his work has included developing a CSA as part of a co-housing collective in the Hudson Valley. He's worked with refugees to build a community garden in South Providence. And from 2012 to 2021, he co-managed Scratch Farm, a low-till community-supported market garden at Urban Edge Farm. And I know Southside Community Land Trust is a current CFP grantee and also received grants in the past. So just given that, getting those formalities out of the way, if we can get going on the content, I just want to ask Steve a quick question. You've been in the sustainable ag movement in California for a long time. So can you tell us a little bit about the challenges in land access on the West Coast? And, how do those issues differ from the rural to the urban to suburban areas? And what's changed over the course of those 25 years?
Well, the old school way people used to get access to land for farming would be to, hang out at a coffee shop where some farmers were, and hear about a parcel that's going to be left up, and then see about trying to lease it or buy it. It never really went on a public market. And that's part of why BIPOC farmers were at a real disadvantage, right? They didn't even know when a parcel was going to come up. So I think that's part of, and I don't think this was in the bio, but I also founded California Farm Link, and we really started to help build, help beginning and immigrant farmers get access to land and financing. But in terms of what's changed, I think one thing that's changed is the marijuana, this market, right? I mean, I've talked to vegetable growers that lost their leases because a pot grower could, pay more. That's one of the scenarios, but suburban development is another huge piece of it. We're seeing more and more BIPOC farmers, especially Latinx and women farmers, get access to land, as people know, and that's or seeking access to land, and that's where a lot of the growth is in the beginning farms. So we'll say more about opportunities on faith land later.
Great, thanks, Steve. So Margaret and Ben, I had a couple questions for you. And so what's the nature of access to land for farming and gardening in an older developed city like Providence? Is the shortage more acute in more expensive and more developed parts of the country, like where you're at?
Thanks for asking. Providence has the most expensive agricultural land in the country. This has been going on this way for decades. We're a very small state. Access to land for local food systems is very minimal. We do have the benefit of lots of markets, and there's a lot of wealth. So it's possible for people to sell expensive foodstuffs into local marketplace. It doesn't make a huge economic, it's possible, and you can run a sustainable operation that way. What we find though is that if you're wanting to offer food as a farmer, or if you're wanting to offer food as a farmer, I'll just speak from the farmer perspective, to low income customers, you can't operate a farm, you can't buy the farmland, you can't get a loan, you can't pay back a loan. You know, the economics just don't work, and that's why we've inserted ourselves there. Did I answer your question? Is there more? What's that I forget?
No, I didn't know if Ben was going to add anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think land is super hard to come by in Rhode Island. We have a lot of tourism. We have agricultural land that's close to the ocean, and a lot of development pressure from Boston, New York, just the metro corridor. So that's not helpful if you're trying to make a living growing food. So what we try to do is secure as much land as we can, but then also, and I'll talk more about this later, but just help growers make the most of small acreage. And so we're pretty well positioned to, because the markets are strong, it doesn't take as much acreage as it does in other places to make a living, but obviously still more is needed. And the demand from especially BIPOC farmers is strong, and we don't have enough land available right now. So that's part of what we're working on.
Thank you. So kind of along those routes, so land is scarce. It's a challenge to acquire it. And I don't want to steal your thunder because I know you're going to talk about this later on, but why you're involved in the land trust community there. Why has land trust been such an important tool to acquire land for farming and gardening in Providence and in Rhode Island?
Well, there's a real ethic of using conservation easements for agricultural land here. The state of Rhode Island sets aside funds for conservation easements, and the Natural Resources Conservation Service, USDA, will match whatever the state puts aside. There are municipal and private land trusts that raise money for conservation. So there's a real land. So in the midst of the development pressure constantly, being in this megapolis, this Northeast megapolis, I don't know if I'm saying that the most sophisticated way, but there is a response. Oh, well, we have to conserve this land. And so there has been a movement in Rhode Island that's pretty well supported to use federal and philanthropic funds to purchase the development rights on agricultural properties so that the farms can be affordable for a farmer to purchase, or be affordable for a farmer to keep in operation. So, Southside Community Land Trust, we were founded in the 80s, and I think there was an idea that, that was a really great opportunity, because that ethic existed here. Some of our properties our rural properties are all conserved. We wouldn't have been able to afford them any other way. And some of our urban properties are even we've sold the development rights for them as well. So that's what, now, some of our properties we just own outright, and use them for agriculture and don't have a conservation easement on them, so we haven't sold any of the portion of our rights to the property. So that financial tool, I think, is the main thing that makes the land trust an important organizational structure or system or way of approaching local food system development. More, Ben, you have something?
I think that's good.
Okay.
Great. No, thank you. So one more question and then we'll break into our small groups. And I don't know if anybody's ever made these connections before, but this is for you, Steve. So I'm a big Lou Reed fan. And Lou Reed gets pretty cynical. And at his most cynical, he once saying, you can't depend on any churches unless there's real estate you want to buy. So I know you work with churches on kind of acquiring land and getting them to use land for farming. So he's riffing off that popular conception that religious institutions are wealthy landlords. And so I know you've been working on this issue for a long time. If Lou were still alive and you were in a room with him, what would you tell him to give us a little bit more hope?
Well, that's an old song, Andy, and the fact that I know it and like it, that kind of dates me too, but it's a great song. So, you can't depend on any churches unless it's real estate that you want to buy. If Lou Reed were here, I would say, thanks for your music. And then I'd say, I think you missed the point here a bit. When it says you can't depend on churches unless it's real estate you want to buy. I don't think churches and other faith-based organizations are selling a lot of land. I think they have a lot of land. And the question and the opportunity is how much of that would be leased or shared with some kind of cooperative agreement with people on this call to produce food. And sometimes they might lease that or do an agreement that's $1 a year or free. So there's opportunity in this. Yes, a lot of land is owned by the churches, but often they have a mission that includes helping immigrants, BIPOC communities, and it's an opportunity. So,
thank you. Thanks for that. So Susan, you want to take it back? And I know we want to break into breakouts.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for setting the stage. I've got like so many questions and things I want to talk about now, and you probably do too. If you're coming to this call, you've got some level of interest in the topic of land access. So, wanted to give y'all an opportunity to connect with each other now and share, what's coming up with this topic for you. Like, why does it matter? How is it playing out in your community? What are some of the dynamics and issues surrounding access to land for farming and gardening in your community? So we're going to send you out into groups of 4 for about 10 minutes. Y'all can connect with each other and just kind of popcorn a little bit what this means to you. And if at any moment you're not feeling comfortable in your breakout group and you want to come back to the main session, totally okay to do. So we'll just be holding it down on this side. And yes, we can drop that prompt in the chat. Thanks for that reminder, Amanda. So introduce yourselves to each other and chat a little bit about this, and we'll see you back here in about 10 minutes. Should see an option to join a breakout room. Emma, you want to pause the recording?